All right. Hey, guys, welcome to the Veteran Sports Voice Podcast. I am Sean Mercer, aka Coach Pops. Along with me is Ian McCants. Both of us are prior service veterans. I'm sorry, we're both veterans. I'm dual service. Ian McCants is naval submarine veteran. Man, welcome to the Veteran Sports Voice Podcast, powered by College Sports Crew on YouTube. College sports spoken by those who served. If you're tired of the soft takes, fake hype, and moral victories, then you're in the right spot because we're bringing real breakdowns, real accountability, and real talk. Playoff football rankings. We may even get into some portal chaos just because I think my team Arkansas is doing a great job in the portal, but who knows? And then we're going to talk to Miami, Indiana matchup. So let's buckle up, y'all. Let's talk ball. Ian, my guy, welcome, my guy. How you doing, brother?
Man, doing pretty good, brother. Glad to be back, man. Doing another show with you is always an honor, man.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate you being here, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what, man? You called me last night and said, "Hey, you want to do a show?" I said, "Let's go." So what? So you know what? This is your show. Let's. What you want to start out with first, big dude?
Yeah, man. Well, we can walk through the games. You know, I know that you did a wrap up show after the games, man. But I was really impressed with the playoff games, man. And I to be honest, I like the storylines, of all the games, man. I think that you could find emotional or sentimental value in the teams, even if they weren't your team. You just understood why they were there. And so I thought that the committee got it right, man. And we'll start with the first one, Miami and Ole Miss. And like I said, both teams had, sentimental value. When it comes to Miami, we remember, those Miami teams, both sides, the ones in the 90s and the ones in the, early 2000s. And, I think that my team, Alabama, put an end to one of their dynasties. And then, they slightly rebounded and then came back with one of the strongest teams ever. But, I like that story, man. I like that kid, the one that reclassified, and, he should be in his senior year in high school, man. And he just looks phenomenal. He made, what should have been the catch of the year. It didn't even count, so you got Malachi Tony, you got Carson Beck. I'm not a big believer in him, man. As far as if you put the game on his shoulder, I don't know if he's really going to win it like that. But, I just like the fact that, man, he's got rings. He has rings as a backup at Georgia, and here he's about to play for another one. And to be honest, I wanted him to have a rematch, against Georgia. And then you got Ole Miss, man. They're dealing with all that drama. And honestly, I expected them to fold. I guess that I, gave Lane way too much credit. Solid team, man. Pete held them together. I think Charlie Weiss Jr., really it showed that he really was the big play caller, outside of Lane. And so, but the thing about Ole Miss, man, to me, they got dominated twice. Like I rewatched that Alabama, Georgia Ole Miss game, and man, Georgia had me hyped, man. I was, a couple of runs, like he got folded like an accordion, man, and he popped up and led them down that field, and he did that a couple of times, and Georgia just didn't pull him away. They lurked around, and to me, it was a reversal of Alabama, Oklahoma. Ole Miss dominated the first game. Georgia had a great fourth quarter, and I think that happened again here. And same thing, man, like Miami dominated them, in every facet, but it was just self-inflicted. It was penalties. It was bad reads, Ole Miss dropping, interceptions. But really, Miami could have put that game away if it wasn't for them being undisciplined, which to me is going to, bite them in the future. And so Ole Miss just hung around, man. And, I thought that they were going to pull it out. So I thought it was a great game, man. Kept me on the edge of my seat. And, just a good game. But I think, I predicted every game right, but Alabama. I expected Miami to win that game, and they did. But I thought it was a superb game on both sides.
Yeah. I agree with you, man. The big difference there, I tell you, everything. I agree with everything you said. The undisciplined, 10 penalties for 74 yards, and those
Mm.
10 penalties were at key moments that kept a drive alive. Kept something happening for Ole Miss there for that game. But I tell you, those last two drives, Ole Miss kind of found their mojo. They found their swagger, and I was sitting there
Mhm.
going, man, if this game goes into overtime. I felt like if that game would win, I felt like Ole Miss was going to win that game just
Yeah,
because they were
yeah.
finding their groove
Right,
and,
right.
and everything. But and I agree with you 100%, Ian. I am not sold on Carson Beck. Every deep pass that he made, it was a busted coverage, wide open. I mean,
Right, right,
Stevie Wonder
right,
could have made that pass, as
right.
compared to what Fernando Mendoza last night, dude. That dude was throwing surgical darts.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just no comparison at this point right here with that.
Right, right.
It was a great game, and you're right. Ole Miss, they hung in there. They let Ole Miss stay in there, and at some point you really did. I'm like you, man. I expected Ole Miss to just, we got here, enough's enough. We're going home. But you know what? They fought to the end, and
Yeah,
that says a
yeah.
lot about Pete Golding keeping that staff together, because I'm not sure how many of that staff left after that game, but I know a bunch were going to LSU. So hats
Right,
off to him.
right.
He did a hell of a job.
Right, and we got to acknowledge too. Their starting running back was banged up.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was a big deal, man. He wasn't much more, than a decoy, and so I know that had to greatly affect a lot, man. And so, but yeah, like I said, it was a feel good story for him, and even with Beck, man. To be honest, like you said, his big passes was, coverage bust, and even that last scramble. He was hesitant, man. I mean, it was wide open.
Oh yeah.
Any mobile quarterback would have scored 2 seconds before he did. He just, he didn't have a choice but to score. And I know it was a great moment for him, man. But like I said, that discipline. Like Coach Saban said, we're celebrating Miami for overcoming the adversity that they created on themselves. And so if they had a lot more discipline, and if outside of Ole Miss dropping all those picks, if Miami played with some discipline, man, the game wouldn't have been close, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Totally agree with you.
and
Totally agree with you.
yeah, and we know, Indiana is one of the least penalized, teams in America, and so that will not go well for them, unless they clean that up.
Indiana had 5 penalties last night for 23 yards, versus Oregon's 5 for 43 yesterday. And you're right. Let's get over to that game if you want to, man. I've heard some crazy, ridiculous stuff today, like Oregon and Dante Moore choked, and I'm like, the game was over in the first 8 seconds with the pick six, but that was a predetermined play. That was an absolute predetermined play. However,
Right.
That was some great film study on that cornerback. He knew to jump on that out route if it was coming, and they did. Why Dante didn't check out of that play, beyond me. There was a couple of times
Right.
I didn't understand why he didn't check out of some plays and get into some different ones. I felt like Oregon's doing a split zone on offense. They would have had some luck, because the times they did do split zone, made when I say split zone, the offensive line were going one way, making the linebackers trust their eyes, and then having either rolling out the opposite way with sometimes where they actually did pretty much a naked bootleg there at one time. Quarterback rolled out, hit a deep pass, but then other times they had an H-back and a tight end come out and crack back on the opposite side. It was good stuff there. It was effective, but man, you know what? If that was a choke job, then I'm going to tell you right now, Ohio State was a choke job.
Right.
Alabama was a choke job.
Right.
And I know that's the best team in college football right now.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I'll be honest, man, as the score was rising, I was, a little tickled, because I didn't even see, the Alabama Indiana game. Like I mentioned, I was away on a cruise on my honeymoon, and of course, I'm not going to come home and watch a defeat, especially one night like that. So I really don't know what they have. The only time that I really watched Indiana all year, they should have lost against Penn State. That guy made a catch of the year catching that ball and contorting his body to stay in bounds, just amazing. But that drive that led them down the field, Penn State just provided no resistance. It was horrible, man. They should have won that game. And so that was the only impression that I have, about Indiana. And so as that score is rising and rising and rising, I'm like, oh my God, they are legit. They are legit. And they look like a men among boys, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I think a lot of times we look at these powerful teams, and we might not really watch them, but we know they have high powered offenses, and we think that it's them throwing the ball all across the field. But a lot of these teams, they depend on their running game, and I think they held Oregon to like 80 yards in that first half. And so I just knew that was a big deal, man. And Mendoza, man, he's I'll tell you this about Indiana. One of their wide receivers scored, and I told my wife, I was like, he got a 4.0 GPA because of the way that he celebrated, man. It was the most awkward little, celebration dance. He didn't even know what he was doing. And so it's like, yeah, these are, intelligent, studious guys. They're not sitting around learning all the TikTok dances and all that. These guys are, all about business and, great coaching. And you can see it all on that field, man.
Yeah. I'm going to run some numbers at you, and this is going to surprise you, man. So, and just because the score shouldn't be indicative of the numbers like this. So Oregon had a total of 378 yards to Indiana's 362 yards. Passing yards, Oregon had 285 to 177 versus Indiana. Here was the difference. 93 rushing yards total for Oregon versus 185 versus Indiana. This is what got me. 5.7 yards per play for Oregon to 6 yards versus Indiana. That's not a big discrepancy right there, man.
Right.
Oregon had 20 first downs to Indiana's 18, right? And here's another number that got me. On third down, Indiana was 8 of 13. Any other game, man, that's phenomenal. Absolute phenomenal third down conversion rate. But Indiana had 11 of 14 over there, right? And then fourth downs, Indiana didn't go for any fourth down plays at all. Oregon went for 2, and they lost both times. And then Oregon had 66 total plays versus 60 versus, Indiana's. They had 60. 3 sacks were allowed by Oregon, 1 by Indiana. And the punts were equal, 3 and 3. Penalty yards, 5 of 43, 5 of 23. 2 fumbles were lost and 1 interception. That interception was a pick 6. But man, Indiana, if you made a mistake, they made you pay for it by points. Not field goals, they were touchdowns. Time of possession, 28-47 versus 31-13. That's an even game. You take out the mistakes.
Yeah.
But good teams make you pay.
And those mistakes were major, man. Very short fields, and
absolutely.
I didn't see the game against Alabama, but it sounded a lot the same. Mendoza didn't have a ton of passing yards, and so I wonder, because I thought that he was left in the game entirely too long. And we see this a lot. They dominated. They got some garbage points there, but it was never in doubt, man. Get your starters out of there. But I'm wondering if Cignetti just feels like it's, a lot of short field, like he hasn't really seen his guy, run a legit, offense, down the length of the field to his liking. I don't know, man. He loved Mendoza. And as I'm thinking that, I remember him taking a hit or two. I'm like, that's totally unnecessary. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, he took out he left the offensive guys in way too long. Now he did bring in the defensive guys, because I have to give a shout out to my guy Caden Turner, number 14 over on Indiana over there on defense. Young man, I was fortunate enough to coach at Fayetteville High School in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and he was back up to Aiden Fisher. linebacker there, and he got some good minutes in the second half, and made a few tackles, some good looking tackles. So shout out to a Fayetteville High School kid and Arkansas kid, Caden Turner.
Right.
So you did have some. They got some of the defensive subs in, but yeah, I was wondering, and I go back every time I see that, Ian. I go back to and I saw this. I saw it when it happened. I go back to an Alabama player, Tyrone Protho.
Yep.
You remember that kid?
Absolutely.
And he never recovered from that injury. He never recovered, and he should have never been in the game.
Right. Should have never been in the game, man. And but it's so funny. Like that right there it started a lot of dominoes to us getting Saban. Like, for example, in my opinion, Protho would have run the Heisman that year. Right. So, he I remember that year we had Brody Crow quarterback, and we beat up on a lot of mid to low teams, and then we get to the meat at the end, which is like Auburn at LSU, and we lose those. I think we go 11-2, and then the next big thing, he's trying to land Tim Tebow, and if you get him, Shula's our coach, because Tebow's going to win some games, and you don't get him, and so Shula ends up getting fired. Rich Rodriguez's wife hates our city, and then we eventually get Saban. But yeah, that was the first death nail in the coffin of Shula, because we were up like 35-3, man, and we were all hyped. We're beating the mighty Florida Gators, and Alabama's back, but that bad decision keeping him in cost him his career, and cost us that season as well. So good point, man.
Yeah. So got a question, and so I got my guy Snacks, and I know we're going to talk about this. So I got another show I'm doing at 9 o'clock your time with the Unapologetic Show, and you're welcome to join if you want to. Snacks said join it if you want to. I don't know what your schedule was. I told him I'd ask you on this podcast, but we'll talk about it after the show.
Right, absolutely.
But people are saying that this Indiana team is probably one of the best teams that ever come through here for a national championship game, and they were comparing the 2019 LSU to one of the greatest teams of those two teams right there. And Snacks gave me a lot of good reasons why the 2019 team of LSU is better than this team here. And just number one reason, he came up with 7 wins over top 10 teams, the most in FBS history. That was the 2019 LSU team with Joe Burrow in there. So what do you think? I mean, you've seen a lot of your Alabama teams go to win some national championships.
Right.
You've seen this. I don't know if they're the best team, but I tell you right now, this is probably one of the most dominant teams for a playoff era that I've seen in the last a couple years.
Right.
I don't remember. The playoffs were not set up the same as it is now. Like we didn't have the playoffs like we did, before. You had the BCS era, then you had, what is it? Pick the top 2, whatever. However it went down. We've changed it so many times and to kiss Notre Dame's ass. So I don't know. I can't remember all the times here. But how do you? Just seeing that game yesterday against Oregon, and listen, everybody, all you guys out there watching, I picked Oregon was my pick to win the national championship. Hands down, they were my pick. And so what I saw right here with, I mean, I've been a big Brandon Feeney Jr. fan, number 4, the cornerback, and there was 2 passes that were completed over him, and he was there. Absolutely, he was there. The one for the touchdown, but the ball was thrown so surgical that only the receiver could catch it. I don't care. You could have had prime time in his prime trying to cover that guy, and that was a touchdown, bro. I don't care.
But
give me your opinion, Ian. What do you think after what you saw? Now I know you only saw this one game, and I know you saw the Penn State game, but I mean, good Lord, man, they've gone through Ohio State, they've gone through Alabama, they've gone through Oregon, and I'm not really going to consider Oregon a blue blood yet. They are, but they're not. They haven't won a national title. But Ohio State and Alabama have.
Right.
They handled it. They had. Let me put this in context. Oregon scored some touchdowns. Alabama didn't. Against their game. So tell me what your feeling is about this team as a whole.
Yeah, it's a great team, man. Like Mendoza was making some wonderful passes, and then he has a dog out there. It's a real conservative team. Mendoza is going to be somebody's head coach, in 15 years. But what's that wide receiver? I think his name's Sarah or whatever.
Surratt, Surratt.
So he gives them that alpha dog, mentality that they need. He's always out there barking. He doesn't fit in, with the rest of the guys, like a suit and tie type guy. And so I like that about him. With that being said, I'm always gonna lean, with the SEC. Now, do I feel that LSU was the best team in history? No. Alabama, if Tua wasn't coming off of a tightrope surgery about a week before the game, we could have beat them, and so it wasn't a convincing victory against us. But outside of that, man, you can't take nothing from them. Great talent, great quarterback, great receivers, man. It's continued to the NFL. And so, yeah, I'll take them over Indiana. I think, what works in Indiana's favor. And I never thought I would see it because of the physical differences between basketball and football. Okay, so in basketball, we've seen it in the March Madness. You have these mid-major programs, the Butlers and Gonzagas and teams like that, where they're not getting these 5 stars coming in one and done. And so they're exciting, but they're lacking the chemistry. And you have these guys together 2-3 years. And so that's really, I think Signetti had a perfect storm there, man. He got ahead of a few things. He kept, brought a lot of guys in from a, previous program, and they had some chemistry. He, kept some coaches, and they showed it out there, man. Like I said, it was a man, amongst boys. And I'm not saying that I agree with this, but a guy did post it. He was like, I was very excited with Indiana until I realized some 24-year-olds out there beating up on some 19-year-olds. And, take that with a grain of salt. But, they do have a very mature team. And, hey, man, whatever, you do that beats the system of just paying people to come, mercenaries, that's what these kids are now. And so it was refreshing to see. Now, it'd be, something to see if he keeps it going, because he has to deal with what everybody has to deal with, especially a program like that. Are you going to hold on, to those assistant coaches? And then, now, teams are going to start trying to poach your players instead of you poaching everybody else's. And so, when it comes to continued success, I don't know. And then this little weird game that Signetti plays with the camera where he's always looking like he's so unhappy and concerned and confused and mysterious. Just stop it, man. Just stop it. Like,
hey, that's just thing you learn from Saban, man. Yeah, because that's all Saban right there, baby.
It's intentional, man. He's playing with the camera, but not taking anything away from him. But no, I don't put them ahead of 2019 LSU at all.
Well, so you know what, so Signetti came from JMU. He brought a lot of those players with him. And I had to look this up because I did not believe this when I heard this last night on the show. They said there's no one above a 4-star on that team.
Right.
And
right.
Dude, I couldn't find anybody that was. There was 3 stars. But you're right. He did bring a bunch of those players from JMU. He brought his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator from there. And I'm going to tell you right now, that defensive coordinator from Indiana last night. And here's the thing. I can't tell you their names. That's how they're all about teams. Signetti runs it. That's it. You don't know it, but either one of them guys right now are probably ready for a head coaching job if they wanted it. But you know what? They're staying where they're at. And you're right. And I will dare say, okay, he's got the team to win the national championship right now, hands down. I'm not even sure. I think last night it was like a 6.5 or a 7.5 spread. Miami underdog right now. I think that's what it was last night. So Indiana should win this game. And what I saw last night, they should win this game. But hear me out right here, people that are watching right now. To me, and I think they got Josh Hoover from TCU quarterback from there. And so Kendall Briles came offensive coordinator at Arkansas, went to TCU. Now he's at South Carolina. I don't know. Every quarterback that ever left, like we had the one that left and went somewhere else, and they didn't do well under another system because Kendall Briles' system it's a Art Briles system. Let's go. It goes back to his dad. So I'm not sure how he's gonna function, but that offensive coordinator in Indiana, he's obviously doing something right, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you
Right,
can't
right,
say, but I think Signetti's coaching next year is where it's going to count,
right,
because you're
right.
not going to have a senior laden team. You're not
Mhm.
going to have a bunch of heavy. You're going to have a bunch of people that hasn't played a lot of games that you're going to have to depend on. And now, and I'm not saying he can't do it by no means. Signetti has shown he's a hell of a coach, and I think he can. But next year is where you're going to see coaching next year from him.
Right, right.
And so I'm curious. I'm kind of excited to see what happens next year. I
Yeah.
don't know if they'll be here next year like this.
Next year is going to go against his own self-proclaimed slogan. I heard him say it several times: production over potential. Okay,
Right.
so yeah, you can preach that when you bring 13 players over for JMU or whatever, and you have a staff that you're holding together. Okay, so but let's see you not hold on. That D coordinator that called that wonderful game. Let's see you hold on to him. In this off season. And brand new quarterback, coming in, and he's got to fit the way Mendoza did. And so so next year he's going to depend a lot, on potential, and so we'll see, and like I said, man, like Saban got so many guys off his tree out there. I believe in most of them, but my two biggies are Signetti and Sark, man, and I would love for either one of those guys to coach Alabama, being honest with you.
Right. Who was it? Actually, we had an instant reaction last night, Ian, and Chris brought up that someone said, that Indiana, he's not ever going to leave. You know what? And here's the thing: Signetti is from Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. Like his dad coached there, Hall of Fame coach, at a small school there. And you're right. But I remember the show you and I did. If you're a good coach, you want to be tied to a blue blood program.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama is one of those blue blood. I told him, I said, man, if Nick Saban comes to calling and say, hey, want you over here at Alabama, he's kind of an unspoken ambassador for Alabama. You know that. I think he would leave Indiana in a heartbeat to come coach Alabama. Because
Right.
Alabama,
Yeah,
you don't have to fight. You don't have to fight anything. Whatever you're going to want, they're going to give him. You're going to get every recruit looking at you just off the brand Alabama alone. What do you think about
depends.
that?
Right now, I would love to be that. I'm a little hesitant only because of a story, Saban told. So Cincinnati was a coordinator, I think maybe even quarterbacks coach. He coached, Greg McElroy. And he was making like $300,000 a year, and he had the chance to take over a program that was like 2 stops before JMU. And so that salary was going to be like $125 a year, and Saban was like, why would you take that when you're making, triple over here? He was like, I want to run my own program. And so, you just never know when it comes to these guys, man. Now, if the motivating factor is, resources and money, absolutely, but he just seems to be cut different. But like with that being said, he's going to have to handle adversity. And to me, that's when a true leader is born. And nice story now, man. But this thing keeps going and going. As an Alabama fan that experienced unparalleled success for 8 years, every year felt miserable. Every year felt like someone was trying to knock us off the podium. Take our crown. And so the fans are always irritable. People are always complaining. Players leave. Coaches get, and so he has to survive that, man. He has to weather the storm on top of that, dealing with, new times, dealing with the portal, dealing with the NIL. So, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. But, if something happens, and I think this year was great. We missed the opportunity because had DeBoer lost to Oklahoma, I'm fully convinced that he would have been out of there. Now, I wasn't expecting Signetti to run the table the way he did, so it would be foolish of him to leave at this time. But the way things turned out this year, it just seems like it's not going to line up with him, but we'll see how it goes.
Right. Well, let's see. That's what, time will tell. And I think, I think next year is going to be, like I said, I think next year is going to be where you see the coaching job at. next year for Signetti, for sure. Absolutely. So with that being said, now we know who we got playing in the the national championship game, and that's going to be Miami and Indiana. So what's your take on that, big guy?
I'm a real fan of talent, and I think that Malachi Tony from Miami is, generational, man. I mean, like this kid, like I said, should be roaming somebody's, high school halls. But, here he is setting records, you just scared, scared to punt to him, scared to, he's just a game changer all across the field. Up until Indiana making it, I thought that it was a very big deal that Miami was playing there in Miami. Yes, it's not supposed to be an advantage because the ticket allotment is 50-50, but we just saw that don't matter, man. Like I saw it, man. I live in Atlanta, just, walking around the streets, man. I didn't see not one green shirt, not one. I think I even joked about it, in the group chat text. I was like, man, I guess these Oregon fans are hungover because I don't see them out here at all in Peachtree. But the stadium was ridiculous, man. It was like 80% Indiana fans. And so I was very disappointed in the Oregon fan base there. They didn't travel. Like, this is a playoff game. You guys aren't Alabama. You don't have the, winning tradition to where you're just sick of traveling to champion games, man. Get out there and support your team. And they didn't. And so, it does matter, man. You can make a difference. You're there in Miami, all of a sudden all the players sick because of something mysterious in the pizza or, the headphones going dead on the sideline or something, man. It's just so much that can happen just, being in that city. But I think what takes all that down is the fact that Mendoza was born, within a mile of that stadium, man. So, he's a Miami boy through and through. We're just not talking about boys from South Florida. We're talking about he's a Miami boy. Right. On top of that, his father was, I think, high school or college teammates with Cristobal. So it's a lot of parallels there. Also, Mendoza was quarterback for Cal, and they lost to Cam Ward in Miami, man. So it's a lot of, parallels that he can draw from that can, neutralize that emotion or any, home field, home city advantage that Miami might have. Outside of that, I think pound for pound, Miami is a more talented team, man, but they're so disciplined. And, that matters. I think that Coach Saban had a great point during that Ole Miss Miami game. We're celebrating Miami for a last minute win for them overcoming adversity that they created. They should have blown Ole Miss out and they didn't because of all the penalties in addition to Ole Miss dropping about, 4 interceptions. That was big. But outside of that, man, Miami's just undisciplined. And that's not going to go well at all against Indiana. So I feel that, Indiana probably, I don't know how far they're going to run away. I don't know. But I think that, Indiana's going to win by a comfortable margin.
Well, and I'm curious too to see how the fan base plays out because, you can go back and look at any home game Miami had this year, and they were lucky to have half the stands filled there, because this is where they play their home games at, right? Mm-hmm. And so they never filled the stands, and and what happened at the Peach Bowl, Oregon fans got these tickets, and then what they do, put them on StubHub or whatever platform they did, sold them. Indiana fans snatched them up. So, and I think the same thing is going to happen here. But I do think, there are going to be some Miami fans kind of confused because, like you said, this is a Miami boy that's coaching, that's playing it for Indiana. Either way it goes, some of these fans are going to be happy. Okay, Miami won. Not okay, but Fernando Mendoza won because it's not going to be Indiana. It's Fernando Mendoza won, right? So they're going to be happy, right?
Right. Right.
And I tell you, man, with Miami, I think what's the game's on? It's January 19th. It's Hard Rock Stadium, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be Indiana's physicality, their discipline, their absolutely ruthless efficiency is just the efficiency is what gets me. Is just, dude, people don't realize this last game, Fernando Mendoza was 17 of 20. He had more of 5 TDs. He had more touchdowns than he did incompletions.
Right,
Like,
right,
dude,
right,
that's efficiency, man. And
right.
it could have even been worse. Like it could have what's his name? Kaleon Black. I can't pronounce his first name. Dude, he had 12 rushes for 63 yards. He had a 5.2 yard average, had 2 TDs. They were on, he got him on the short field. But what if you'd have just kept running your running back? He had 5.2 yard average per carry. You could have just kept running that guy, like running him because they were getting yardage every time.
Right.
If Miami's D line doesn't do something special, and I don't think they will because I think Oregon's going to match up with them really well. And you know what? And another thing, Miami's D line only got 1 sack against Ole Miss. That was it.
Mm.
And so, and you look a lot of times, they're running 11 personnel. So, Indiana's going to have that 6-man front, or they're going to be able to, if they need to have chip protection or whatever, they're going to have it. But I don't think they're going to need it.
Right.
I
Right.
totally expect this game for Indiana to go just like it's going like every other ones. I don't think it's going to be close again. I just don't see.
Right.
I'm not sold on Carson Beck, and if it does stay close, and they got to depend on Carson Beck to win this game, I have no faith in him because every long pass he made was a busted coverage. Everyone. I mean, but I watched Mendoza, dude. I don't know. I have never seen a quarterback throw a back shoulder throw like he does. He puts the ball where only his receivers can catch it. And
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I mean, I just like and Carson Beck on his deep ball, he just kind of throws it up, hopes for the best. It's like a 50-50 ball. So
Right.
yeah, I'm looking at the whole. I think Miami is just going to do, and I think they will. I think they're going to win that line of scrimmage. I think they're going to, and they don't beat themselves.
Right.
They're just going to, and God forbid Miami makes any mistakes. They proved that against Oregon. If they make a mistake, Indiana's made every team pay for it. Every team, not just Oregon last night, but every team they played so far, they've made them pay for it.
Yeah, I think that's the key, man. And I'm gonna say this: I wouldn't get caught up in fan support for Miami. What people have to realize is Miami. We're used to public universities. University of Alabama, University of Arkansas. Miami is a private, school. So yeah, they're not supported, by the students through and through. But you better bet on one thing. One thing Miami loves is a show. They love a show. That's the most overrated place in the world, man. You go down there to Collins and Lamborghinis down there for no reason, and so that's how this is going to be, man. They're going to have DJ Khaled out there and, all of them, man. And so, yeah, it's going to be a show. It's going to be a show. And I think the city reflects the team, man. I think that Miami is more talented. I think that they have more future NFL picks, but that's the problem, man. You're having the youngsters run the team. Your best players are, a guy that should be in high school. You got that guy Bain. I don't know what he is, but Miami has an okay mix of vets and freshmen, but definitely their talent. Outside of Beck, and who hopefully has his PhD by now, as long as he's been in college. But it's like, he's not a vocal leader, man. He's always strutting around like a little peacock, and so, I don't see him, being the vocal leader of that team, man. And so at the end of the day, but I'm not, I know one thing, Miami is not going to be scared of Indiana. They're not going to look at any of those scores and say, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into? I think Miami feels like this is the next step to their coronation of returning, to the top of college football. And I don't think that they have any fear of Indiana enough, which can be good. It can also be bad, man. So I just, I expect it to be a closer game than what we're expecting. Maybe I'm hating on Indiana, man. I don't know, but I just, like I said, I've only seen them play twice, and one time was not the best. They should have lost to Penn State in the regular season. Penn State scored late and just some of the worst. I remember a guy, I think he was Tennessee coordinator, John Chavis. He would call games like this at the end, man. Just like, why are you in all that prevent, man? Like just that theory of like knocking down what's in front of us. That don't work all the time. I think that works on a Hail Mary, but he was calling that for like a whole 2-minute drive, and so that's what happened. And, of course, Indiana made that last that last second great catch, but they should have lost that game. I'm not so sure they should have beat Ohio State, in their matchup. And so that's all I had to go off of. I still didn't see the Alabama game, but like I said, I've been saying that's my team. But Alabama had a lot of flaws. And then with this game here, man, there was a lot of short fields. I mean, 21 points.
They made them pay.
Yeah, off a pick six. And so, like I said, I'm not taking away from them, but at the end of the day, I think that it's going to be a good game. But like you said, man, they're going to make Miami pay for every mistake, and all it's going to take is one or two, and the game's going to be over, man. So that's what I expect to happen. But I don't, for some reason, I just don't feel Indiana's going to run away from them.
I got you. Hey, Ian, we got a guy up here. I hope he's still on here. I didn't see the comment here till a little bit late here, but Blue Wolverine. So this guy showed up on TikTok Live when I was doing TikTok Live here, and I went and he followed me on X over here, Blue Wolverine. When I looked at his Twitter handle, he had Blue Wolverine VA behind it, and so I'm going to assume you're a veteran. And Blue Wolverine, one of my good friends. I work with a 20-year retiree from the Air Force that I work with. He gave me this yesterday to put on my wall behind me here, sir. So this is going up for my guy Cheese and for you. And Blue Wolverine still here. Hey, buddy, this is for you. This is going up on my wall behind me. And Mr. Blue, I know you followed us here on at College Sports Crew on YouTube, and everybody else is out there watching us. Hey, man, if y'all like what you're seeing, you know what? Follow us, man, right now. Go hit that subscribe button at College Sports Crew. And then also on X, you can follow us at College Crew. Man, we would on X. We would absolutely love to have you here. And there's my guy saying he's still here. We appreciate you, Blue Wolverine. Tell your friends about us. Like I said, hey, Blue Wolverine, I got you there. Tell us what branch of service you were in, man. Let us know. Myself, I was Army, Navy, and then Ian here was Navy. But yeah, so I'm going to have a 2023 national championship, Michigan, going up on the wall behind me here after this podcast. So I'm glad you're here. But anyway, so yeah, man, Ian, you're right about one thing. You brought up that this is going to be a show, and I can't wait to see okay. You and I grew up in an era, man, where it was, convicts versus Catholics, we've seen it all, with all that. And Michael Irvin's going to be on the sidelines.
Oh man.
Who else tell me who you expect to see, like Luther Campbell,
Luther Campbell, you're going to have Ray Lewis, and it's good to see, man. I think that I think that Michael Irvin overdoes it, man. Sometimes he actually takes away, from the game. But outside of that, man, one thing I gotta say, you'll see a photo with all their pros returning, and it's all of them, man. Like they're 20 deep coming back, any legend that ever played for Miami, man, they come back and they support the team and support the young boys. But outside of that, man, like I said, I would think that is great. Like you have Indiana, and at the end of the day, they're a great team, man. But you got to be affected by environment. Up to this point, there hasn't been like a true home game, that they've had to weather the storm. Right. So here they go, man, and they're gonna go into there, and it's gonna be a zoo. But like I said, the great equalizer is Mendoza's from there, man. And something about that kid, man, he has this quiet confidence. Like he's very studious, very, everything seems rehearsed. His PR training is impeccable. He's going to be a coach, but that kid got this burning like something, man, that I like, and then it made sense when I found out that he was from there. And so I think that he'll be able to, help Indiana not be overwhelmed, by the scenery and just play football. And we'll see how it turns out for him.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this game. It goes back to kind of the old days. And it's good to see Miami back where they're because I grew up. Miami was there a lot of times. I was there when I especially followed when Jimmy Johnson was there. He was Arkansas alumni. He was on our national championship team in the '60s there when we had that. And okay, hold on. I got something here. VA stands for Virginia. I do not serve. Have a long list of soldiers in my family. Nephew became a Marine this year. Brother, Army Airborne. Hey, well, all right, there you go. Army Airborne also here. Another brother in the Army also. All right, friends and soldiers. All right, hey, we appreciate you. And hey, Blue Wolverine, you got friends. You got obviously you got family here, man. That are in the service. Let them know we're here, man, because this is why we do the show, is not only for the veterans but for the active duty guys and women that serve. So please let them know we're here, man. And you know what, you're welcome. It was my honor, and I'll let Ian speak for himself, but it was my honor to serve something bigger than myself. So thank you. You're welcome, sir, and thank you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like I tell anybody, man, like I'm in a lot of groups, man. I'm in fraternity. I'm a part of Masonry, stuff like that. Have advanced degrees in college. And if I was to have a traditional wedding tomorrow, where I needed guys to walk down the aisle with me, man, like those guys are coming from military service. I just can't explain it, man. It just sets you up for lifelong friendships and support. Look at me and Sean, man. We pick up like we were, back under that water, tackle football. What was that? 05, 20 years ago, man.
20 years ago, my man. 20 years ago.
It definitely worked for me, man. I can't speak more highly about military service. It serves the purpose of what you're there, but one thing that it helped, man, and I tell anybody, I've been on both sides. I've gotten the military education, and I've gotten the secular, collegiate education, and I can say that I'm so thankful for my thought process from military, because it forces me to be tangible, if that makes sense, man. I can't afford to be lost in theories and hypotheticals that you learn out here. You have to make it work. You have to figure out the who, what, when, where, and why in order to function. And so that's what military service gave me, man. And so I wouldn't take back one second of it.
Absolutely. I tell my wife all the time, she's the warrior, and I tell her all the time, don't worry till I worry. And she's like, where did you get that from? I'm like, that's straight from the military, because you don't worry until it's time to worry. Until that, you just figure out the problems, and that's how it is, man. That's just, what you see a problem, you sort through it, you adapt, you overcome if you have to. But then what, I ain't never had a problem beat me yet. So and that's just kind of where we kind of came from. Ian, that's just how we were expected to handle our business. But you know what? But hey, Blue Wolverine, you got a lot of family members out there. Share us to them, because we are here for them. That's why we started this. And also, with that being said, guys, I have a I'm actually going to post this on here. Let me see. I actually think I may have this here. Let me do this. Control. I'm going to post this on here, guys. If anybody, Blue Wolverine, you got some veteran guys out there. This is if you look in the comments, vsv@collegesportscrew.com. That is how you get a hold of our show. Send that out. Email us if any of your people, any of them guys need any help veteran wise. Even if they just need someone to talk to. Let us know. I'll give them my phone number. We'll talk. We'll do whatever. And I know Ian feels the same way. But anything. If they need help with dealing with VA, they need help dealing with anything on base, MWR, let us know. We're here. We got resources. We got people all around the country. I know I do, and I know Ian knows a few people around here that we can help out. So that's what we're here for, man. We are here. We are college sports spoken by those who serve. That's our motto. That's what we go by, and we are here for these guys here. Yeah, so with that, let's get back to what we were talking about, man. I think it's going to be a great show. I think you're right. The Miami deal is going to be a great show. I am curious to see how they make it into a better than what it already is. Because honestly, let's be real. I think that obviously the two best teams got there. Now, I'm sure Notre Dame fans are going to argue they would have told you they could have beat both these teams 50-0.
No, nobody want to hear that. Notre Dame has had plenty of times in history to show what they're made of, and they have failed every time. They came close, a couple of years ago, but man, I don't want to hear about Notre Dame, man.
Hell no. But I had to throw it out there just because, because that they are, man. They were like, we could beat anybody. You just couldn't beat the two teams that would let you get into the playoffs.
Absolutely. Win your games. If you don't play in a conference and you're going, you don't fight the rigors of a conference or a conference championship, you better win every game on that schedule. And if you don't, I'm sorry, go cry in the corner. Because we don't care about that here. I still got a memory of that Notre Dame game where the real championship was Alabama against Georgia in the SEC championship. I think Georgia it wasn't Aaron Murray or whatever, but anyway, man, I think that was like one of Mark Richt's last teams, and Bama had, I think, AJ McCarron, I want to say Cooper, I forgot his name, but regardless, man, Georgia's driving the field at the end, and they come up a few yards short, and then we go play Notre Dame, and they got that linebacker with that fake girlfriend.
Oh yeah, dude, I remember. Yes,
what was Mentateo?
Yeah,
and we destroyed them, man. That was like the worst, and so they love to hype Notre Dame up, and they have all these years, man. And Notre Dame has had some good games. Don't get me wrong. I used to love the Tony Rice, back in the day, and Jerome Bettis, and I remember one year, man, Florida State, was just winning every year. Bobby Bowden and Notre Dame played them and beat them. But outside of that, man, I have no confidence in them. And, I just were they a better, like the playoffs this year was good outside of my own team laying an egg, which, is debatable whether they deserve to be there or not. But I just don't see, Notre Dame at the end of the day is 12 teams in, but it's usually only about 3 or 4, with a legit chance to win. And Notre Dame's not one of them. So I don't care about 5 through 12. What happens there? If they don't stand a chance to win, I don't care. Go home.
Right.
Play a bowl game.
Right. There you go. Hey, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you were talking about Amari Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that the quarterback would have been Matthew Stafford.
Okay. Yeah. But I just remember that being a very good game, and that was the true championship right there. And they tried to build that Notre Dame, man. They were coming out that tunnel looking like some toddlers, man. They were scared. I remember AJ McCarron and Barrett Jones got into a little pushing match out there on the field. That was the most competition Alabama had all night.
Exactly. The game was already out of hand. It was already out of hand by that time, and they're still fighting.
I don't care nothing about no Notre Dame, man.
So I tell you, guys, you know what? Listen, Miami fans, if you're out there, look, Tony can't be stopped. They have to not let Tony be stopped, and Bain, that defensive line has to handle business against Indiana. If both of those don't happen, it's going to be a long night, Miami fans. I'm sorry. I literally have witnessed the best team in college football team right here.
Sit Michael Irvin down and don't act like him. Don't play football like him, and y'all will stand a chance. But if you go out there and you have 8 to 10 penalties, it's going to be night very early. And so It's up to y'all. Uncle Luke going to be out there. Who else? All of them. All of them. So, Miami, they can't get caught up in the hype, man. It's still a game to be played. So, it's 2 ways to remember this as, us bringing the first national championship to our city since the 1990s. Are you going to win the doggone thing? And I hope that, Miami just doesn't get caught up in the hype. That's one thing about Coach Saban. And, he's looking great in this, man. He made the great call about Miami. He said this in November. He was like, if Miami gets in there, watch out. And sure enough, he called that right. And then everybody coaching in the doggone thing is from his tree. Now, Dan Lannon, I don't give Lannon that much. Like, Lannon seems to hate Alabama. Like, they wanted Lannon, but Lannon just used Alabama, as a pay raise at
Right.
Oregon. But, Kiffin would give anything to coach Alabama. You got Pete Golden, Cristobal, Signetti, and so, it's really, Saban's shining through this whole thing, man.
What about Steve Sarkisian right now? You think he wouldn't leave Texas right now? I think he would leave in a heartbeat to come over to Alabama right now.
Let me tell you, man. I hope that Alabama has learned, okay, and we got to talk about the real, but Alabama could have had Dawn Staley as their women's basketball coach. Now the women's team is winning now, but they could have won 10 years ago if Alabama was willing to accept her preference, for her lifestyle and, her skin color. And so that's the thing about Sarkisian, he's in an interracial marriage. And so, the old school money down there, man, you got to recognize the time, man. You got to recognize the time. And, if you want to win at something like this, you got to be accepting to stuff like that. So, I hope that Alabama learned their lesson from fumbling Dawn Staley, back in the day and letting South Carolina get her, man.
Well, I hope anyway. At this point right now, if you're not looking for the best coach that can lead your team to a winning year and a championship, then because that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters. I don't give as long as they're not killing people or doing anything retarded in the background, or I'm sorry, mentally challenging in the background, you're great. But
just win, baby.
Just win. That's it, baby. Just win. That's it. Yeah. So, but yeah, guys, that's where we're at right here. And hey, man, we're at about 56 minutes here. And hey, Blue Wolverine, I appreciate you guys being here. I know we got some other guys. I see we got some other viewers on here. Just had to give us a comment. But look here, guys. Follow us. We're here on YouTube. If you didn't already, hit that subscribe button at College Sports Crew. You're already there. You're already here. If you're watching us, hit the subscribe button. If you see us on X, we're at College Crew on X. Hit that like button there. And look down there in the comments. I'm going to post it again. It's the last comment on there, but I'm going to do it again. This is a Veteran Sports Voice podcast, and this is college sports spoken by those who served. Once again, I'm a dual service veteran, Army Airborne and Naval Fire Control Technician submarines. And Ian McCants here is a fire control technician, also on Naval submarine. We served on the USS Louisiana. Blue Crew, right? Ian, it was a Blue.
Blue Crew. I got a shout out. I was also U.S. Navy ceremonial guardsman in D.C. I got a shout out Alma Guardsman out there. There you go. Great duty station there, man. So
there you go.
I got to big up the guardsmen out there in the world.
I forget about that. You got to be part of that big time dog and pony show there, but it takes a special breed to do that. Not everybody's selected for that. That's actually a really big honor, no matter what branch of service, to be part of that ceremonial honor guard. That's a big deal.
Times, man. Good times. Yeah. I got to walk in President George Bush Jr.'s inauguration and get bottles and stuff thrown at me, man, as we marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and I got Al Sharpton walking up to me because I was like the only brother in the whole platoon. And he walks up there like, "My brother, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Get away, Mr. Sharpton. You're gonna get me in trouble." But man, what an honor, being able to actually march in an inauguration, man. I'll never forget that for the rest of my life.
Well, I tell you what, and you know what, and that's right, and you know what, that's the kind of things that we get to do, and you know what, that's a special thing that you got to do. I never got to do because actually I wasn't tall enough. So there we go. We got Blue Wolverine over here sending the laugh emoji right there. But hey, Blue Wolverine, I'm glad to see you on here. Thank you so much, man. I know you got a lot of veterans, and you got a lot of family that are active duty service members. Pass our information on to them, Blue. We're not playing, man. Like, we're here for them, and we're here for everybody here, guys. And you know what? Like I said, we are the Veteran Sports Voice podcast, college sports spoken by those who served. If you're an active duty service member at this time out there you're deployed right now, we're with you. If you're not, you're at your home duty station, your base, wherever you're at. Hey, we're right there with you. Thank you for doing serving something bigger than yourself. If you're a veteran, hey, we're here. This is our email right here. And if you know some veterans throw our email out there. Tell them about us. You know what? We're here. Check on your veterans, guys. If you got veterans, just pick up that phone or shoot them a text, especially the ones that say they're okay. Double check on those guys. All right. We're here. And if you're a Gold Service, if you know any Gold Service members, let us know. Hey, honor their sacrifice, because they sacrifice something that we can't even begin to describe here. They've lost a family member while in service. So a service of this country. So, and that's why we do what we do. And with that being said, guys, salute you guys. It's been 59 minutes and 39 seconds, and we're out of here. We love you, and we can't see you again. We're actually going to do another show Monday. I'm assuming, what do you want to do? 6:30 in? What time you want to do it?
Same time. Great
so
time.
6:30. We'll see y'all Monday, 6:30. Y'all come see us. We sure do appreciate you guys. Peace out, guys.
Absolutely.